Hello, I'm Trish Mack, Business Development Manager for First American Exchange. Top 10 identification issues. For a successful 1031 exchange, it is important to comply with the 1031 exchange identification rules. Here are the top 10 things to remember when identifying replacement property in an exchange. Number 1, identification deadline. The taxpayer has 45 calendar days from the date the relinquished property closes to identify replacement property. Number 2, 3 property rule. The taxpayer may identify up to 3 replacement properties and may acquire 1, 2, or all 3. Number 3, the 200% rule. The taxpayer can identify any number of replacement properties as long as the total value is not greater than 200% of the value of the relinquished property. Number 4, the 95% rule. If the taxpayer identifies more than 3 properties with a total value that is more than 200% of the value of the relinquished property, the taxpayer must acquire at least 95% of the value of the properties identified. Number 5, property acquired in 45-day period. Any property that is acquired during the 45-day identification period is deemed to be properly identified. Number 6, manner of identification. The identification must be in writing and signed by the taxpayer, and the property must be unambiguously described. This generally means the taxpayer identifies either the address of the property or its legal description. Number 7, receipt of identification. The taxpayer must send the identification notice either to the person obligated to transfer the replacement property to the taxpayer or to any other person involved in the exchange, other than a disqualified person, such as an agent or family member or the taxpayer. Most identification notices are sent to the qualified intermediary. Number 8, substantially similar rule. Replacement property must be substantially the same to its identification. The regulations contain examples to illustrate what substantially the same means. In one example, the taxpayer identifies 2 acres of land and then acquires 1.5 acres. The property acquired is substantially the same because what the taxpayer received was not different in nature or character from the identification, and the taxpayer acquired 75% of the value of the property identified. In another example, the taxpayer identifies a barn and 2 acres of land, and then acquires the barn and its underlying land only. Here, the property acquired was not substantially the same as the property identified because it differed in its basic nature or character. Number 9, property to be constructed. If the replacement property is under construction at the time of identification, the taxpayer must include the address or legal description of the property and include a description of the construction. Number 10, reverse exchanges. Generally speaking, the taxpayer must identify in writing what they intend to sell, and that identification must be sent within 45 days after the replacement property's acquisition. If you have additional questions or wish to dive into a little bit more detail, you can always reach out to me via email or phone. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you would like other educational materials, visit us online.